What do you mean? It's down here. Right here. Start replay. Oh, yeah, but okay, Jack, do you know there's no point in me putting on replay buffer because it doesn't record my audio? You know that, right?
Huh.
Because, like, I'm not talking through, like, here.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So that there's actually no point in me having that on. Like, I realized that last week when we were, like, talking about all that shit before, which was really funny. And then I clicked replay buffer and it was just your audio. And I was like, oh, never mind.
Well, I think in the future we can figure out how to separate the audio tracks in OBS because I know how to do that.
I don't know how to do this.
I do.
Oh, okay. Why don't we just do this? Oh, fuck it. No, we don't have time. We'll do it next time. Okay. All right. I think I'm. Wait, am I recording on both? Yes. I do loud claps into the microphone. There you go. That should hopefully get you lined up.
Yay! We've done it.
All right. Are you doing the intro, Jack?
Am I doing the intro?
You sure are.
Okay. Welcome everyone to Real Talk. We made it again. We did it again. Anyway, thanks for watching.
That's right. I didn't realize that was my cue. I apologize.
Is that just what we're gonna do every single week from now on? It's just
dead
not
silence.
paying enough attention.
Oh look, we're here. We've done it. We're talking. Second episode, second season. That's 2 for 2.
I'm
baby.
so happy.
That means this is where we quit, right?
I think we got like 2 more episodes in us. I think.
I mean,
So if we can just stretch it for 2 more episodes.
you say you think. I don't know if we could come up with enough topics.
Oh shit, that is true. I was previously mentioning that there's not enough drama in the world, so.
And I very much said that's not true. All right. Well, what are we talking about today, Jack? Well, look, let me lay it on you. Right. If you're not, you're not super clued in, recently, the United States has. This goes to the viewers as well. The United States has. Actually, hang on. Slow down. Let's
John,
roll it back a bit.
I've got history blue balls now.
Let's roll it back.
I'm history edging.
No, my history goon streak. You've broken it. Let's roll it back a bit. Welcome to Real Talk. Obviously, we just went right into it, but we should probably explain what this is because we actually didn't do it in the first episode, and I've realized that if you like getting this push somewhere, or you're seeing a clip, or like a short, or you're watching this on YouTube, I should just probably explain that we're a podcast where I attempt to explain either current politics and some history behind it, or the history on something and then how that affects current politics. And Jack tries to make jokes out of it.
I try my best.
That is about what it is. But we like to frame ourselves as a educational place to get some interesting thoughts on maybe something that you want to learn. You know, if you have a look through our catalog. We have plenty of things that we've talked about in the past that you can kind of nitpick on. Or, you know, if you just want to listen to something in the background, you can do that too. But that's pretty much what we are. Just wanted to let you know this is also episode 2 of season 2. So if you want to go back and listen to our earlier stuff, there's definitely good and bad ones in there in season 1. So
I disagree. I think they're all good. Wait, which one's bad? Lay it out for us.
Let me think. Which ones are bad?
Guys, he can't even think of one.
I actually
We're
can't.
flawless. We're a flawless podcast.
Yeah.
We may have taken a year off, but we're a flawless podcast.
I really liked the Germany one. The pirate one was really good. Conflict in Palestine was interesting. I feel like it went for too long. Like it was a pretty long one. The Byzantine Empire was fire. That one was cool.
That was.
Vikings was also pretty good. I think the Pacific War was too broad. I think was my problem with that episode. That one wasn't very good because we talked about like loads of like you could do individual episodes on each area of the Pacific War and you know instead of I was just like we'll rope it all into one, you know. Alexander the Great was interesting, but I don't think I knew enough.
I think it was cool to find out that he was gay.
Yeah, he was gay. He kissed boys.
That's huge for the gay
That
community.
is huge for the gay community. The gay community can now take Alexander the Great and, you know, be like, "Yep, that was our
That,
guy.
that's our guy.
That was our guy."
Was wait, he's dead? Sorry, that was stupid.
So what are so what are we talking about today, Jack? Well, I don't know if you know. Is this where I go away from the topic again and I give you history blue balls?
No, don't do it, please.
So in recent news, the United States of America under the Trump administration has mentioned quite a few times how Canada could become their newest like state. And Trump's out there is like, Canada wants to be part of the United States.
Oh no.
I've spoke to many Canadians. They're practically American. That kind of rubbish, right? Anyway, he's said that a lot. A lot of the Canadians are like, this is fucking horseshit. I've swore in the first 5 minutes. That's really bad.
Oh no. Our ad revenue, it's
No,
gone.
not all our huge amount of ad revenue. But anyway, like everyone's like, oh, that's horseshit, that's stupid. A lot of the Canadians are like, oh, I hate that. And so now obviously that's not going to happen. They've also talked about buying Greenland, where there was a period of time in the 40s where the US did occupy Greenland, but that was because they used it as like a naval base in like the Northern Atlantic during World War II. But it was just like a rented kind of situation.
They rented Greenland?
They did rent Greenland, and the people. So
Ah, that sounds unproblematic too.
nah, it's alright. It was the 40s, man. Anything kind of went.
That's
Um,
true.
Now I wanted to talk about a period of time where the Canadians really gave the Americans what for, really showed them who's boss, and that's the War of 1812. Now, if you're an American listener, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you'll probably be fuming at the fact that I just said that the Canadians showed the Americans what for. And if you're an English or Canadian listener, you'll be like, yeah, we did beat them. And it's kind of one of those wars, unfortunately. There wasn't really like an outcome. They just kind of fought each other, and nothing really happened. It did lead to the ability for Canada to become independent, which was pretty big. It was kind of their like, we'll show you what we can do kind of thing. And Canada at the time was also separated into like 3 or 4 colonies, similar to like how Australia used to be, how each state was its own colony. In Canada, that was also a thing, and then it confederated in 1867. But the War of 1812 showed the British that the Canadians could like fight for their own kind of thing. Anyway, what's the War of 1812? Jack asks. I don't know if he's even
What's
here.
the
Oh,
war
he's
of-
here.
I'm here.
He was
Do you think I just left? I was like, oh, this is talking too
I
much.
actually thought you like got up and walked away.
That's actually what we should do for the whole,
man,
for the
he's
whole
really
podcast.
quiet.
I say, John, what are we talking about today? And then I get up and I walk away to the nearest source of food is where I go. And then I come back after an hour and I sit down and I say, wow, John, that was an incredible lesson.
Thanks for letting me know that that's what you do. I'll start saying some crazy things you can pick up in the edit afterwards. All right, what was the War of 1812? Well, we have to go back even further because it's not a history lesson without having to link a previous historical event to this historical event. There was a conflict called the 7 Years' War, or as it's known online, the French and Indian War, but we don't like to call it that because they're not Indians, they're Native
It's the
Americans.
Native Americans.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck, I've become so smart.
So, France and England were fighting over colonies in North America. The French had colonized sections of Canada, now known as Quebec. That's why they speak French in Quebec, because the French
And they speak
colonized
that
it.
fucked up, like with that fucked up accent, and they talk really fast and weird.
Yeah, exactly. Right. That was French. If you said that to a Quebec person, they'd understand that.
Ah,
And then they also colonized Louisiana, which is way down in the south. But that doesn't super matter for this conflict, because I feel like that wasn't a super big part of it. I might be wrong, but I don't
wait,
think the
Canada
British
stole
took.
not Quebec, Louisiana.
No,
Oh,
Canada
the British
didn't.
did.
The United States did.
Oh, the United
But
States
that
did.
was
Okay.
later than this.
Oh,
So I don't know if the French had colonized any of Louisiana at this point. I don't know that. That's not what we're talking about. We'll talk about the
sorry.
French colonial existence in Louisiana a different day. Um, the conflict kind of took place between a bunch of French people and the 13 colonies, which was the precursor to the United States. The French attempted to go to war with like native tribes that were supported by the British, because the British were pulling a CIA and feeding weapons and horses and ammunition to these native tribes, because the native tribes were like fighting the French colonists. And so they were like, well, you can like proxy war for us, right? So they just like created their own little Taliban in North America, pretty much, to fight the French to stop them like expanding their colony.
So they were just sending all this shit to the Native Americans,
Yeah,
and they were just
yeah,
like, "Yeah, you just like go ahead,
yeah.
go tucker yourselves
And the
out."
French were like, can you not? And so the French kind
Yeah.
of like went to war over it. And this is around the time, or this was like before the American Independence War, I think. Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm thinking really hard. Yes, it was. So this was like before. So this was like the precursor to the American Independence War, because the American like colony, the 13 colonies, had to like fight. Obviously, the French there,
Mhm.
with help from the Native Americans, and against certain Native Americans. Like they were on like different sides, because obviously there was like loads of tribes and stuff, and groups and culture groups and stuff, and so they all kind of fought each other. It was just a big fucking mess of a war in North America, pretty much, right? It lasted about 10 years. The French lost, like really bad, and the British were in massive debt, but they won. And won so hard that they kicked France like completely out of North America and took a bunch of their colonies in like Africa and stuff. It was a good victory for the British. They were like, we did it, good job, guys, woohoo! Right now, the Americans, this also meant that Canada was kind of founded, because the British had now like inherited this big colony, and they were like, oh shit, like we need to kind of make a whole colonial government here. So this created the country that would eventually be called Canada. But at the time, it was called Upper and Lower Canada. There were two different colonies. Now the British had kicked out the French. Yippee! Victory for the entire world, really. And
Yeah, because John hates the French.
I do.
Because he's British.
So then certain elements of the allies, or the Native Americans that were allied to the French, then fought a war against the British and the 13 colonies and Canada, because they were like, we don't want to be under you. And unfortunately, it meant that the British killed a bunch of Native Americans. What's new, right? What's new? So anyway, the British did
Old
that,
news.
and then and then a bunch of people that wanted to expand into Ohio.
He said the thing. He
I
said the
said-
thing. Sorry, continue.
So they wanted to expand into Ohio, and they killed a bunch of Native Americans, and the British were like,
Oh.
you can't do that. You can't expand anymore because you're killing Native Americans, and we're allied with those ones. And the American, oh, like at the time, the 13 colonies were like, I don't like that. I want to expand where I want. And the British were like, no. Anyway, pay our taxes. And that's when they raised taxes on things like tea and imports. What happened? Like, so the 13 colonies were obviously a British colony, right? Now the British didn't want them trading with people that weren't British, or their colonies, and so the Americans were forced to either produce things internally or only trade with the British at like a raised price, and they weren't allowed to trade with the Spanish or the French or anything, which meant that they like didn't have really any control over their own market. And so when they wanted to do things and the British said no, it really upset them. And so they did this whole thing called like the Revolutionary War. Um,
Yeah,
yeah. And what they did
I've
is
heard of that.
yeah, you probably have heard of that one. It was sort of a big moment in history.
I
Um,
would say revolutionary almost.
you reckon? Uh, actually, yeah, I like that. Maybe we should submit to like Wikipedia or something to get the name changed.
I'm actually emailing them right
Oh
now.
yeah, is that how you do
Hmm.
it? You email them?
Yeah, I'm emailing John Wikipedia.
Oh yeah. So let me know what John Wikipedia says.
All right.
So, yeah, the Americans were like, the British were like, you're not allowed to expand any land any further, and the Americans were like, that's fucked up. So they declare the whole independence thing, fought a war, um, won. It's really hard for me to be like they won, but they did. It's like, they beat the British. It did take
We
them.
didn't lose. They won.
It took. That's right. The British didn't lose, but the Americans did win. Um, and then the Americans fought another quote unquote Indian war. Um,
Mm.
just another Native American war. And this was kind of like the beginning of Manifest Destiny. If you know anything about that?
I don't think
It
so.
was like an ideology or like a kind of thing the Americans did where their destiny was to control all of what is now modern America. So their destiny is to control all of the East. And so the 13 colonies, I don't know if you know much about them either, but they only existed on on the west. They wanted to go west, but the 13 colonies only existed on the East Coast. So like modern day New York, Boston,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. They only exist there. And then that mountain range that I can't remember the name of,
Twin Mountains.
I think those are two mountains that there is a mountain range within them. It's called something. It's not the Chesapeake Peaks or some rubbish, is it? Anyway, that mountain range that's along those cities, they weren't allowed to go past that. And then when they won their independence, they were like, we're going to go past this now. And they were like, manifest destiny. Your destiny is to the east. Go east and find find what God has anointed you. And, this is your land now and stuff. And so all these like pilgrims and stuff go east. And they start killing Native Americans because they're quote unquote in the way. Um,
Mm.
and then they had to fight a big group of Native American nations, and the Native American nations actually actually won like
Oops.
a huge amount of battles. You'll never guess how. That's
Uh,
right. They were using British guns,
yeah, the
and
ones that they sent to them.
exactly.
Ah, perfect.
And so the British funded Native Americans defeated the United States multiple times. Then the United States eventually rebuilt their army in like true Roman fashion. Oh, they destroyed an army. We'll just build another one. They built another one. They defeated this tribal group. And then they were given control over what is now most of kind of the Midwest of America. How does this all line up to the War of 1812? Well, a bunch of Native American people, under leadership of the Shawnee, which were a tribe in North America, quite a big one. Um, they kind of formed like another union to try and fight off the Americans from like expanding into their like home. Um, they lost, like really bad, um, and so that obviously this whole time the British have been like funding these Native Americans, and there have been like skirmishes on the kind of border between Canada and North America. Um, and so the Americans were like, "Ah, oh, fuck it, we'll go to war with the British." And so they went to war with the British. The British at the time were like in the like midst of a war in Europe, so they were like, "Ah, oh, they'll be a bit busy." Do you know who wasn't busy? That's right, the Canadians. They were there and they were ready to fucking go for it, right? So they turned to these North Americans and they were like, "Hi, is there any chance you want to fight in our army? We'll kill some Americans with you." And the Native Americans were like, "Yes." And so in 1812, this war was declared. The Canadians, along with the side with their Native American pals, are fighting the United States. They won quite a lot of battles, actually. Did really well. There's like a famous battle outside of Chicago. Um, and it was like a big fort. And like the Americans are like, oh, they won't be able to get in. And the Native Americans figured out like a strategy to kind of like sneak inside and like open the gate and stuff. It's very clever. Very clever.
Stealth mission.
Yeah, so a huge amount of like really gross, not gross, but like really like almost devastating to either side. Like whoever won, still it was like a Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhic victory. So there was a general, a very famous general back in like the ancient world called Pyrrhus. He was an Epirot man. He was from the country called Epirus. His name was Pyrrhus of Epirus, and he won a lot of victories against the Romans, like early Romans. Anyway, he won a bunch of these victories, but he would lose like 75% of his army each time he won. So he would win, but he'd like have practically no army left. And so when you say something's a Pyrrhic victory, it's like, oh, I've won, but I've lost loads in the process. You know, it's like a victory, but like I've got the result I wanted.
But at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. So a Pyrrhic victory is just that. Anyway, they fought a bunch of Pyrrhic victories. Either side, like if Canada won, they lost like 80% of their people. If the United States won, they lost 80% of the people. It was bad, right? This was all on the border. And then a bunch of American, United States invasions attempted to get into the British land. Because the French colonies were like sort of unhappy with being where they were, and so they were like trying to get in and like, you know, get them like on board and stuff. So there was a bunch of victories, a bunch of how do I put this? A bunch of massacres. Like there were on both sides. Like both sides killed a lot of Native Americans during this conflict. It's not very pleasant, but they did it, and it's important to highlight that that was a thing that happened. And one of the like biggest thing, the kind of like famous thing that happened, was that the British, with the help from the Canadians and obviously their Native American friends, burnt down the White House. It's pretty hype, actually. Not gonna lie. Pretty cool. I don't know. It was a war that eventually I don't think anything came of it. Let me double check that. But as far as I'm aware, absolutely nothing came of it. They occupied Maine. There was the Chesapeake conflict where they like sailed people up the... here we are. The burning of Washington. 2,500 soldiers arrived in Bermuda on a boat and 3 other boats. And then landed in Virginia. They moved up the Chesapeake River, burning like everything on the way in. raided an area called Alexandria, and then beat an army in the Battle of Bladensburg, and then burnt down Washington, like all of Washington D.C., not just the White House.
Crazy.
Take the L, I guess, is the moral of that story there. Take the absolute L, guys. I say the British won in this conflict, to be honest.
No, the British didn't win. The others just lost.
Let's have a look. So the peace deal, I'm not 100% aware of what anyone actually got. 10,000. What did this actually do?
I thought the whole point was that it didn't really do anything.
Yeah, I don't think it did. How many people died? Oh, so many people died. 13,000 people died of
Could you, like-
accidents. What does that
Huh?
mean?
Did they fall over? Could you imagine like being in such a big war or something like that, and then like being in the afterlife and someone being like, "Yeah, bro, nothing came of that. You died for literally nothing."
Yeah.
Like that'd suck. I'd be haunting the I don't know, the president or something.
Dude, the Tsar of Russia was their arbiter. The person who like sits in the middle of the meeting.
Like from Halo.
Yeah, like from the guy, the guy from Halo. What? And he ran in and said that, and then forced the British to pay £1.2 million in damages to Washington. However, those damages were not to rebuild the city, but were in fact to reimburse the slave owners whose slaves they freed.
That's crazy.
That is awful. Oh my god, that's terrible.
Why did they do that?
That is awful. Yeah, so this is why the British weren't super committed to this, because they were preoccupied with rebuilding Europe after defeating Napoleon. So the British, this whole time that this war was going on, were like fighting Napoleon in Europe. And they were like, we've got more important shit to deal with. Huh?
Why didn't they just kick him in the head?
Who, Napoleon?
Yeah.
They had to like...
Wasn't he really small?
Yes, but I think he was like normal height for the time.
I'm Googling it. I'm also getting a response back from John Wikipedia. He said no.
Oh, shit.
So.
That's really annoying. If everyone who's listening could email into John Wikipedia and
he was 5'6", bro. He was
5'6".
tiny.
That's normal size for that era. I guarantee it.
Wait, hold on. People are saying that supposedly he was 5'2".
He was not 5'2". Excuse my hiccup there.
Okay, he was apparently between 5'2" and 5'7". Regardless, still a short man. I was going to say short king, but didn't. I feel like we didn't like Napoleon.
Oh, this is crazy. Did we like Napoleon? Personally, I don't know if Napoleon actually did anything particularly bad to like native population. Jesus Christ, dude! Napoleon had some ops, man. This guy was like, there was a lot, there was a lot of guys who didn't like Napoleon. Oh my god! And like, what's with the
Me and the
side
squad
swapping?
about to roll up on Napoleon for real.
About to staunch Napoleon for his country. Look at the fucking state of the people against the French there. Oh my god! Napoleon was outnumbered 50-1 and still wiped the floor with Europe. Good for him, man. What a goat. What a goat.
That's so stupid. Holy
I
shit.
2 million is how big their army was. That's crazy. 2 million men in the year what? 1803. Were there even 2 million people in France at that point?
Were there even 2 million people on the Earth?
French population 1803. It's 27 million. So what? Like
Literally,
7%?
Australia has more people than that.
Like 7% of the
Why
French
didn't they just
population?
birth more people if they wanted to win?
That
And that's what
is.
I'm saying.
Do you know who had that idea? The Nazis. And it didn't work.
I thought they did the opposite.
No, no. So the Nazis had, like, Germany had, like, a really. It had a traditionalist mindset that, like, women should be at home. Uh,
Just popping kids out.
yeah. Yeah, I was trying to word it a different way, but yeah, it was like if your family didn't have if you didn't have like 3 or 4 children, like it was the women's job to birth and then raise the next generation of Germans. That was their like whole mentality. It was like very gross. It was very gross.
No, but that was
Anyway,
normal back then, probably.
I don't think it was. Anyway, it took how many? It took 7 coalitions to kill or to defeat Napoleon. Napoleon was like goated and won a lot of victories. They man, I like 600,000 Spanish. They killed 600,000 Russians, 300,000 Germans, 300,000 British, and they didn't even land on the fucking country, and they killed that many. 250,000 Portuguese, 500,000 Austrians. Like he can't.
Half a
He killed.
million
He
ostriches.
killed 4 million people died in the Napoleonic Wars against the French.
And
Um,
he killed them like himself.
yeah, yeah, he ran up on them with his Glock because they were
With
they were
his
his
with
ops.
his
They were his ops, and he ran up on
ran up with the
them.
switch.
He he ran ran up on them ops and absolutely glocked
Two
him,
white
dude.
guys saying he ran up on the ops with the Glock. Uh,
Look,
yep, this is a history podcast,
what
that's for sure.
what Napoleon wanted to do is he wanted to, or what he did do, because he succeeded, was to form Europe under one country. And he wanted the French to be that country. So he took Spain, Portugal, Italy, all of modern day Germany, and like sections of Poland and Russia, and he formed it all into what was called the continental system. And he hated the British so much because the British were like the only ones able to continue fighting him because they were on an island, so he couldn't reach them. That he made everyone on the continent never trade with the British again. But that's okay because the British had like a massive empire at this point. But if the British didn't, they would have been fucked. Napoleon Bonaparte, was he short? I don't believe
Yes.
you. Oh, dude, Wikipedia's got his signature here.
Whoa.
Do you reckon we could
Did John
copy?
Wikipedia go in there?
John Wikipedia's got big Napoleons. Haven't we already talked about Napoleon on this podcast before?
I don't know, but I feel like if we did, it's going to be the same thing where I said he was short, and then I said like something related to Napoleon Dynamite.
Why'd you say Napoleon Dynamite?
I don't think I haven't yet, but there's still
Oh,
time.
can you get on it?
Yeah, hold on.
Make a funny joke.
Napoleon,
Make a joke, funny man.
Napoleon Dynamite quotes. Uh, gosh.
That was the quote.
Yeah, apparently.
Okay.
Apparently that's one of his trademark expressions. I haven't seen it, so
You you haven't seen Napoleon Dynamite?
No, should I do the dance though?
I don't. Will anyone see it?
No, but just like for the love of the game, for the culture.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
I presume he's doing the dance right now. He'll put it on the green screen in no time. Don't worry. You guys will be seeing this. I can't see it, but I'm going to presume he's doing it. He's busting it down. Crazy style, right?
That's just a little sneak peek.
Yeah? Was it
Yeah.
fire?
Yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
What are we talking about? This
I'll
podcast
have
has
you know-
lost the plot, mate.
I'll have you know, all I did was roll back on my chair and then just start like bouncing up and down and making the floor creak.
Is that the dance? Is that
No,
what he
I don't.
did?
Nah, I can't do the dance.
Napoleon does not look
haven't
short
seen it.
in these images, mate. Napoleon looks fucking jacked, man. I jack Napoleon.
He can
off.
still be. What?
Huh?
What did Chat, can someone clip that?
Nobody needs to clip that.
Well, just because he's jacked doesn't mean he's not short.
Do you know why he had his arm in his coat all the time, mate?
Because he was missing an arm.
I
Or he was jerking himself.
no, it was neither of those.
Oh.
I actually I'm gonna be honest, I don't 100% know if this is true, but I think he just had like stomach problems. And so he was just always massaging his stomach.
Yeah, well,
He just
you mean the man that is that is responsible for like winning wars and killing many people had a sore tummy the whole time?
He just had a sore little tum tum. He had a little tummy ache. He's like,
I'm just
I
looking at
can't-
photos.
I can't encircle this Austrian army today. I've got a
And
sore
I-
tummy.
And do you think that he was like sitting on his chair and his legs were dangling at the same time?
Excuse me, do you
He's-
by any
he's
chance
like-
have
He's
water
got
bottle?
like just his nose hanging over the top of the table, and he's like, "We're gonna take out Russia.
Do you
We're gonna
guys
take
have
out, we
a
are friends.
hot
We're gonna
water
take out
bottle?
Russia and the Native
I-
Americans."
My tummy hurts.
It's so stupid.
My
I don't believe that.
stomach
I
hurts.
do not. Believe.
I'm serious. Hang on. Why
Did Napoleon have a
Napo-
tummy ache?
Yeah.
Wait, what did that just say?
Stomach.
Did Napoleon
ache.
have a child with an 18-year-old?
He had gastric cartomius. Stress ulcers in his stomach.
Ah, okay. So yeah, kind of makes sense.
He had a stomach ache.
My stomach hurt.
Oh, he had cancer. Never mind. I take it back.
Oh shit.
I take it back. He had like a really hardcore stomach ache. That's full on. I'm
Damn.
sorry. I'm sorry
Hey,
if I've upset anyone.
Sorry, Napoleon. Guys, don't cancel us for that, please.
Don't cancel Napoleon for that.
I'll have you know I'm still like slouched in my chair, like barely hanging over the top of my desk.
Napoleon, let down thy hair. Conquer Europe for me.
So what was this photo you sent me of Europe?
So this one I've sent you, this was like the peak of like Napoleon's empire.
Wait, all of the
things surrounded by red he owned.
holy shit.
So like he was like goated, right? Like he did the whole like take over Europe thing before someone else decided to do it, you know? Yeah, he was big on the whole taking over Europe thing. He did very well.
So what, for the audio listeners, he had pretty much everything except for like he pretty much had like 90% of Europe except for like the big ones.
Well, yeah, he like Austria, Germany, Italy. For the visual listeners, I'm sure we can hopefully put this on the screen if we get around to that. You know, we got Italy, Spain, France, obviously, Denmark, Norway. Pretty much anything that's like semi-important in continental Europe, he owned. And he like held on to that. So all of those countries were no longer allowed to trade with anyone outside of those countries. He kind of made like a big trade border And he didn't like people breaking the trade border. He was like,
I'm sure he also didn't like people going like across the water to get to the other places.
Yeah, he was probably also like, he didn't like it when people were like, "Oh, do you have a little tummy ache, little man? Oh, little man, have a little tummy ache. Oh," and then he squeeze his little cheek.
Is that pulling his cheeks apart and stuff?
Oh, look at you with your little
Oh,
tummy ache.
with your
Oh,
tummy
do
ache.
you want me to get
Do
you a
want
box to stand on so you can look at me in my eyes? Huh?
Do you want a Yakult? Do you want a Yakult, little man?
Oh
Do you
my
need some
god.
probiotic drink
Oh,
for your sore with your tummy?
little tummy wub. Oh, little tummy wubby.
Is this related to the War of 1812?
Well, this is kind of going on in 1812.
Oh, okay, cool. So he
You
was
can even-
having his tummy ache in
This
1812.
this was the exact same time that the Americans were dealing with their Washington being burned down by the British. The British were also having to fight the biggest threat Europe had ever seen.
Tummy ache, man.
Tummy ache, man. No, it was a very cool period of history, except for how like combat worked, because it was just like this was the period of time where it was stand on a line, shoot a musket, reload musket.
Yeah.
So
And they have like the people playing the drums and stuff.
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like,
And you're like,
what is that game?
Huh?
The game that
Oh, Hold Fast.
yes.
Nations at War.
Yes.
Hold them back, boys.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I can think about when I think about that. That time frame
That's
of
what
war.
it was. That's what the British were doing. They were like, "Hold them back, boys," and the French were like, ooh la la, tummy ache and stuff." You know, like that was 1812. Yeah.
Right, so like what, they literally just shot muskets at each other and stood in a line? Was there anything else?
That honest to God was combat during this time period.
That's so cringe. How did we go from like fighting with swords and shit to standing in a line and shooting each other with muskets?
Well, you see, like, that was pretty much how combat worked. You'd have, let's say, an army of about 40,000 men, and about 30,000 of them were just blokes that would stand in a line and shoot at each other.
Dude, I could have been in that war.
You
I
could
would've
have been.
fine.
Yeah, you probably would have died, but you could have been in it.
I just dodged
and then
the musket,
other
the
10,000
bullet
were
or whatever.
like sometimes cavalry and a lot of the time artillery. This was also around the time that like artillery started working its way into armies like officially. So like Napoleon, actually before he was an emperor, and before he was a ruler at all, he was like a commander of like an artillery brigade in France before the revolution. So he was like a big fan of artillery. He was like, this is it. And there's a very famous moment in history where he used artillery very well, where he was trying to fight the Italians, and he lured them into like a big like valley area. And then he fired cannons from like all the forests around down into the valley. And because the valley was like so slippery and icy, the everyone was slipping over and panicking. And he got them to fire smoke rounds into it too, so they couldn't see anything. And then his like men would like shoot down into the valley. It was a very he was French. So it's hard to say, but he was a genius. Like he was very good. He had a little stomach ache.
So
but
you're telling me that like when that instance is happening, where everyone's standing in a line and shooting at each other, are you telling me that like specifically when artillery is being dropped, you don't just move?
Nah, because it wasn't dropped. It was like fired forward. So this was sort of before, like
step out the way, I guess.
Yeah, but cannonballs travel very quickly, and so do explosive
I'm sure
shells.
I could see. I've played enough dodgeball in my life to see a cannonball coming towards me and just move.
How fast did a cannonball travel?
Not fast enough.
In
and that's
1812, just in case there was a.
Just in case the air was different. The
I-
wind was hitting a little bit different back
in
then.
1812, common cannonball's muzzle velocity was 439 meters per second. Do you think you could avoid that?
Well, what's that in like real. What's that? What's that in kilometers per hour?
Uh, uh,
What'd you say? 482 meters a
meters per
second.
second to kilometers per hour. It was 439. That is that is 1,580 kilometers an hour.
But that's. I can at least see them lighting the thing on top and like. And I'm like,
you
I know where it's going.
you
Like I
might
know where
see
you're
them with
pointing this. So,
their little stick. You'll see when it goes to fire because they all cower because of how
yeah.
loud the cannons were. So everyone would
And
like cover their ears and they would fire. But
and
also
like
like
the gunpowder that blasts out, it's like Elmer Fudd, and then everyone's got blackface from the smoke.
Jesus Christ.
And I'm like, okay, I know you guys are shooting the cannonballs. Also, that's not cool. And then
And a
step out the way, shoot
Napoleonic.
them with a musket.
What's yards to kilometers?
I don't know, man.
1,335. Oh, these cannons could only fire a kilometer. That's cringe.
Then step backwards. What did like it's rolling at
But
that
also
point.
no, but like also, how are you gonna shoot at the guys in front of you? Like a gun isn't gonna reach a kilometer back then. Like I'd be surprised if like a musket could fire more than like 100 meters.
This is just the first Mario game.
What are you talking about? When was this?
This
in
is when
Mario?
Donkey Kong is throwing the barrels at me, and I'm just moving out of the way of the things, and that while I'm progressing towards them. Am I crazy for thinking that?
Wait, explain to
But
me
I
again.
just so Mario, you know Mario.
I know of him, not personally, but I know him of him.
I'll get you his number.
Oh, thanks.
He's the Mario game where Donkey Kong is throwing the barrels at him, and you have to jump over the barrels, and then like get all the way up to Donkey Kong, and then you win.
Yeah.
That's just what you do. That's how you win the war.
Right. So I see what you're saying. So you're saying that the way to win the war was to dodge the cannonballs.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
You know what? You've got it. I tell you what, when we invent the time machine.
I don't need to use that if we're doing a time machine. I just need to show them an iPhone.
Yeah, but how? Yeah,
I just need to show them Hawk Tour Girl, and they'll be like, "All right, the war is over."
The Enlightenment already happened by this point, Jack. You don't need to enlighten them a second time.
The Enlightenment of Hawk Tour?
With Hawk Tour. No. A period of time actually called the Enlightenment was a time where people began to realize that you don't have to be religious all the time. And that science holds like a pretty. This was around the time where people started believing that maybe dinosaurs were a thing, and that history was evolutionary and not snapped into existence by a bold white guy in the sky.
Was he bald?
Every image I've seen of him is he's bald.
I'm starting to think maybe I've never seen an image of God.
Are you serious?
I think I've seen the one of The Simpsons where it's just his feet.
Is that true?
Yeah, the Simpsons episode.
I've just googled
where
the
Homer
word
goes to heaven.
God. Oh yeah, he does always have a lot of hair. Why do I think he's bald? I reckon he has like a receding
You're thinking
hairline.
of Johnny Sins.
No. He is my
God.
He is my God. But yeah, anyway, he's still bald and he's still white. He's still white and he's an old man and he's neither of those.
He's a woman.
What the fuck is this image, Jack?
Ariana Grande said it.
Can you put this behind? Oh no, it exceeds the image size. It's a massive image.
Oh,
it's too big.
Oh, because it's God, bro.
It's more than 10 megabytes. This image is
He's
huge.
a big human. Just I don't know, snip and sketch it or whatever. Yeah.
Hang on, I've got it. You'll love this picture.
Just compress the fuck out of it. Is it Napoleon and God having a punch on, but Napoleon's got sword coming?
It's definitely
or
something.
is it a picture of me? What the fuck? What am I looking at?
So for our audio listeners, there's a man.
This is AI, right?
There's a man shooting up heroin
But it
and
looks
smoking
like,
cigarettes with a gun, and Jesus is like crying over him.
is that God? Does God just look like a stereotypical, like, I'm not going to say it.
Jack was gonna be racist then, guys. You
No,
missed
I
your
wasn't going
Jack
to be racist.
racist moment.
Oh, he is shooting up.
He is
I thought
shooting
he was.
up.
I thought. Okay, so whose arm is that?
Uh, Jesus is, but I think the idea is that it's like when you shoot up, you're
Oh,
shooting up with like
right.
Jesus, right? Like I don't know
Oh,
if
of
Jesus would
course.
be in my dream blunt rotation, but
All right, so we'll just blur out the syringe. I mean, the item that he's holding. But oh, it makes so much sense now. Whoa. Oh, and he's got
stop
like
talking like
cocaine
you've
and
just been like enlightened. What?
dude, this is the
Whoa.
enlightenment thing
So this is
that
what
you were talking
happened in
about.
1812 or 10 or whatever.
Yeah, everyone
The
was shooting up and they were like, what would Jesus do? Jesus would be upset if you were shooting up heroin right now. Did heroin exist in 1812?
yeah, opium, mate. Come on.
Ah, of course.
The
Can we do
Opium
an episode
Wars.
about that?
I actually would love to do an episode on the Opium Wars, but it
An
is
episode
just
about opium,
but
and we can get high on opioids
ooh,
and do the podcast.
I it would be just an hour of me talking about how the British forced a entire culture of people to become addicts just so they could sell product. If that's
That's a
something you want to
great
listen to,
idea.
yeah.
Isn't that just what big tobacco does anyway?
Wow, very insightful of you to say.
History does repeat itself.
History does repeat itself. Isn't that crazy?
This is good. I have been enlightened.
I feel like you actually have been. I feel like you've actually learned some things today, even if
I
they
learn
weren't.
every week.
Even if they weren't about 18 to. Oh, you've learned that you wouldn't be able to dodge a fucking cannonball,
No,
mate. You
I've
know
learned that
that.
I would have
There
just
is no.
won the War of 1812 or whatever. I don't know. I'd beat all of them.
You beat
I guess.
Napoleon.
Yes.
I reckon if you
Kick him
put
in the tummy.
if you put me and Napoleon in front of like a board of like pieces where it was like this is how you command your armies, I'd be able to beat him.
Oh yeah, you've played enough fucking RTS games.
I reckon I could beat Napoleon. If there's anything any
I
of our
reckon I could
listeners
beat Napoleon with my bare hands.
if they're still I reckon I could beat him with like my waist. It's about how high he is, you know, because I'm like 9 foot tall and have a big cock and muscly and stuff. So
Huh?
if there's anything our listeners take away from this podcast this week, it's that one, Jack could definitely dodge a cannonball fired at him in 1812. I could defeat Napoleon on a table, and then beat him at war, and Jack would be able to defeat him with his fists.
We should tabletop Napoleon.
We should tabletop Napoleon. Are you taking the
Yeah.
front or the back?
Wait, huh?
Huh?
Uh, are we talking about the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, what are you talking about?
Can you explain to me what you were talking
No,
about?
no, no, no,
then?
no. What were you talking about?
I'm talking about like the thing that you do in school to somebody you don't like, where like one person crouches down behind them and then you push them over and they fall over.
What? Oh, yeah, that's what I was talking about too.
I don't think you.
No, I was.
Mm. Anyway, yeah, let's
Well, look,
tabletop Napoleon.
this absolute mess of a podcast has been episode 2. I'm not sure if we can exactly name exactly what we really talked about. It was a bit all over the place. I
Can we
wanted
just
to
name it Jack will dodge a cannonball?
Jack will
I think we should set that up. We should get that set up for
Can
an
you
episode.
dodge a cannonball in 1812? That's that's the name of this podcast. Look, we love you guys. Thank you so much for listening. If you're still here, that's awesome. And if you haven't already, and you have just tuned in for season 2, or you're a long time listener and you're tuning in now, and you're like, "Oh, I do still like this podcast, even though they've been gone for ages." Throw us a review, or comment on our YouTube.
Do you remember what your Spotify quip was?
My Spotify quip.
Yeah, when you would say, leave us a rating or something because more ratings equal more episodes or something like that.
Wow, Jack, you've nailed it. So if you rate us on Spotify, the more ratings, whether they're good, bad, middle, if you give us a good rating, we get higher up on the history/comedy sections of Spotify. And the higher on those we go, the more listeners we get. And the more listeners we get, what do we do, Jack?
Wait, but more
We
episode.
make more episode. Thank you so much for listening. It's been an absolute pleasure. You can find me on X, I guess, that godforsaken space on the internet.
That's the everything app.
At John Real Talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just one John.
John Real Talk. That's me. And Jack, where can they find you?
Oh man, you can find me at Napoleon's house beating him up, probably.
At Napoleon's house beating him up. All right. Well, you can
Yeah.
find him there.
You
Wherever
can find me in a
house.
time machine, nearest time machine. Or
Head
you
to
can find me
1812
on.
and you'll find him.
You can find me
him
on, I don't know, everything. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, everything. AO Jack.
It's all AO Jack.
Oh, good.
Baby.
Get the links in the description and stuff like that.
There sure will be. We love you guys very much. Thank you for
Give
being
him a kiss.
here. Mwah!
They get longer with every episode.
Obviously, I love them more. Bye, guys.